What's up guys, this is Sean Tan. You are watching iherng's podcast and today we're going to answer a question from email. Hi Sean, my name is Nardi, a subscriber and a long-time fan of your YouTube channel. I have a question for you regarding the general perception of the upward trend in the real estate market as an investment tool and also an asset to hedge against inflation, especially among countries in the circle of Chinese influence, namely Hong Kong, Singapore, Taiwan, China. Should there be an encouragement or discouragement to own a property? Given that every day many people are crying or gloating about the crash in the real estate market in some of these countries, obviously not Singapore, and making fun of property investors. Secondly, the declining population in developed countries like Japan, South Korea, Taiwan, which are also traditionally not a destination for immigrants, will the increasingly expensive price tag deter potential buyers away since it is unaffordable? Will that actually kickstart a vicious cycle that property will crash in a very bad way? Since less population equates to less demand and vacant properties will increase gradually, therefore supply will outpace the demand in the long run and price will drop even more based on how the market usually work. I would like to know your take on the questions above. I believe many real estate investors or enthusiasts will constantly ask themselves the same questions, and many real estate naysayers are vocal in expressing their opposing views. Hope my email will get picked and help even more people to have a more comprehensive understanding of the market. Wow. So first of all, thank you for watching and thank you for sending in such a very, I'll call this a high level question because it's not about how to anymore. It's really more of a macro view of property as a whole. Right, so the main question here is a few things. One, because population is getting less. So we also spoke to a lot of experts regarding the field, not only across the world, in Malaysia itself, right? Population is actually declining. We're going to be an aging nation by 2060 something or 2070 something. Actually, you think about it, right? Don't need researchers to tell you, also you know, like the amount of friends getting married is getting less, right? The amount of couples choosing to not have children is also getting more. Then some interesting facts is you can see the percentage of women in universities are more than men already. And when these educated women comes into the society, they will only pick higher qualification men. Therefore, it's going to be way harder for them to settle down and get married. So it's no more such thing already. And Malaysia is still rather healthy because we can still see a lot of big families going around. And for Singapore case, because the topography is very small, like it's smaller than Malacca. So in relation to the population, then I think it's fine. But if you think about Hong Kong, look about China, it's very different case. So this may be a little bit deep for those who are not familiar with the topic, but let's just roll with it. So for Hong Kong's case, because of the land ownership difference and the way they choose to develop Hong Kong as a whole. Do you guys know like Hong Kong is only 25% developed? Like Hong Kong is that the rest, right, is actually kept for agriculture purposes. So that also allows them to really focus their resources in them. So if I were to build MRT, right, it's way more focused, it's way more well planned, then everybody gets to enjoy the infrastructure or resources poured in by the government, so all people can use. But that does not take away the crazy high price of real estate there. And it's very, very sad, especially when you see people live in cage and all. Unless those are solved, right, then you can only say that the property price will drop. But seriously now, there's no land available, there's no units available. But in China's case, because of the land legislation processes are very, very different. So they don't actually own the land, they own the right to develop the land. So it's a very different topography altogether, and it's a very different cycle of development as well. So what they do is you can build a township first, get people to live there, then only economy starts booming. And in other words, like in KL, a location starts maturing first before massive developers move into a particular location. So it's a different scenario altogether. Yes, in Malaysia we also see like addresses with well done infrastructures being built. Technically people should move in, but not really. And that's what's happening to China actually. And you just think about it, right? When the ownership criteria is so strict in China, like upfront they need to pay at least 50% just to own a property. With such strict regulations, right, people can still buy a lot of units. And sometimes in Malaysia, we complain about, you see, now the third property, we can only take 70% loan. People's first property also 50% cash already. And that's why when you have a lot of units not being able to be handed over due to the overgearing by the developers, right? Imagine the disappointment of the customers. But on a side note also, I've been watching a lot of Taiwanese documentaries, Hong Kong documentaries, Singapore's documentary about the stuck generation, right? So this generation where is you have parents above you, but then they just graduated in a time where everybody has a degree. So your pay is about 3,000-4,000, slightly higher than their parents, right? But now everyone has a degree. So competition is really stiff. Then with 4,000, even in 4,000 ringgit, right, in KL, how to survive? And there's always this common topic about affordability measured against the annual income. So 4,000, right? Annual income is 48,000. Let's say 50,000 for ease of calculation. So 50,000 annual income, if it's 3 to 4 times more than your annual income, is considered expensive or beyond affordability already, based on the metric that was done internationally. I disagree lah. So it means that a property, right, can only be sold 160,000. Where got such thing, right? But there's two ways to look at it. As a fresh grad, you are not supposed to own a property yet. Since when get the degree, then it means that you can buy a house. That was never the case. Maybe 30 years ago, maybe lah, but now definitely not. The second thing is that when you have a product that is based on the law of economics, right, market demand and supply kicks in, right, the price is determined by how much somebody else is willing to pay for it. That's why the prices of prime areas will never drop. Also linking to whatever points that we made just now, it means that families are getting smaller. Wealth gap is getting bigger. And property is a thing where it's considered a need, also an investment tool. And I still remember one of the training that I've attended before, right? They mentioned this. How many handphones would you want? Let's say if I were to give you 2 handphones, right? It's considered normal, okay, in today's age, right? What if I give you 5? Would you complain? Like, what for? I need 5, right? But in terms of properties, if I were to give you 2, is it a lot? No. But if I were to give you 8, would you complain? No. The more the better, because it's actually generating wealth for you. And that's the rule. So now, throughout this entire journey of YouTubing, I've came across owners with 18, 25 properties, some 100 over properties. That's like one. I've seen one before, spoke to him before. Insane level. But then at the same time, we also have a lot of young couples trying to make their very first purchase. So that demonstrates the wealth gap, and this reflects in the property price in prime areas especially. So like now, the thought of owning a bangsa landed house, right, is already like a dream. Now when a lot of my friends share about, hey, you know, I'm staying in Bangsa, one of the landeds around there, right? The first thought will be either he's renting or his family passed down to him. It's very difficult to believe that now he can actually own a landed Bangsa unit. And it's happening already, where if you follow the channel long enough, I used to say this, next time the bragging rights will be where the young people rent. For example, hey, you know where you stay, Sean? Oh, I stay Bangsa, one of the landed houses there. Wow, so rich one can rent there. You know the rental there very high. No more such thought of owning, because it's totally out of the picture already. And we can see that with all these blue ribbons locations such as Bangsa, Mont Kiara, Damansara Heights, Bukit Tungku, Desa Park City is really getting there. Setia Eco Park is getting there. Subang Jaya, part of it is getting there. Bukit Jalil landed property is already there. And the similarities to all these locations will be privacy, serenity, comfort in a very convenient location. So side note a bit, for Sean's 4 basic steps. Number 1, the intent determines everything, right? So the intent for owning a property divides into owning for own stay, right, or owning for investment. Why do I divide that line? Is because the things that you want for a home and the things you want for an investment is absolutely different. So if you want for investment, usually it's number driven, and properties with healthy number usually are in very well connected areas that is matured with amenities. It will be more congested, there will be more hustle and bustle, quite noisy kind of situation, because these are the areas with action. That's why people want to be there for job opportunities. If you want it for own stay, most of the time what we want, privacy, comfort, quiet, right, serenity, all this kind of thing. And these kind of things are usually not very good for numbers. People usually want to pay to be closer to the MRT than further away. That totally explains the scenario. But if you want to have a home in a very convenient location, but yet still having all those quality of a home that you would want to stay, that is going to cost a bomb. That's why landed properties in Dutamas area, landed properties in all those areas that I just mentioned just now, those are going to cost very, very high, and it's already beyond affordability. So the solution to that proposed by some developers is to have those dream homes located further away from the city, and they thought that the MCO would change the way we work, so now the distance is actually okay to travel. But that didn't really happen. Once MCO got lifted, then everyone all goes back to Jalan Tun Razak for offices already. Everybody still need to go back and report in the office in PJ, in KL, and so on and so forth. But again, turning back to the stats, when couples are not planning to grow their family anymore, do they seriously need a landed house? Do they seriously need a 2,500 square feet house with land, so with swimming pool and all? No need. They rather stay in a very convenient location where they don't have to drive during the weekend. They just walk around for cafes, cinema, shopping mall, whatever they need to do. Yes, this transformation takes time, as we can still see a lot of young couples with kids, right? Especially like me, right? But the number of children are also decreasing. Last time there used to be 4 to 5 children in a family, pretty normal. Now 1 or 2. A family with 3, you think that, wow, so many, wow, brother. Solid respect, you got 3. I don't know how you do it. And that's the vibe across Malaysia, city centre especially. Then when you look into the product range, right now a 3-bedroom seems normal, but 2-bedroom seems sensible now, especially with the work from home culture. So comparing projects, right? 800,000 budget for a landed house far away from the city. Far is not that far, so it's still within Klang Valley. But it takes you 1.5 hours to travel to the city every day versus being in the city itself, travel half an hour to work. 800,000 for a 2-bedder or 800,000 for a double-story terrace house. Which one would then be a product that we invest in? And across time, when people start to notice the pattern, starts to change the way of mindset, landed properties is a very old school thing already. It comes with more maintenance. Why pay more for space that I don't need? And after owning it, I actually became poorer in terms of time. I don't even have time to chill in the house that I buy already. Might as well stay closer to the city, and that gives me actually more time, which is the ultimate currency of life. So when this comes in, right, I think larger size properties at suburbs, right, is going to be irrelevant. But here we are talking about like 60 years, 80 years kind of transformation. It's not like tomorrow, Sean said tomorrow is going to happen. No. Because as generation starts shrinking, everybody has more wealth. I don't have to think about children's education. I can spend now. There's no reason for these people to save already. They have their investment in place. They have their properties. Then they can spend more on life. Actually, they can spend more on luxury items. They can spend on the location that they want to live in based on convenience and their lifestyle. So guess where they will buy? So the luxury segment of things will still remain unattainable. Still cannot pick one, but you can see slowly the distinct difference between suburbs and main city. Of course, government is also stepping in by building a lot of affordable housing within the landscape of the city, right? That's great because ultimately a location that is very successful, right, depends heavily on the working level of people as well. You need people to provide services and goods, right? So those are the people that are heavily required to maintain and run and address a city as well. That's why you can see successful locations such as like Bangsa South, such as Mont Kiara, and all the places that I mentioned before. There will be elements of low cost and affordable as well. So not all atas one. It needs to be a well-balanced one. And what you mentioned is true. Absolutely true. For those who don't believe about real estate, they will always laugh, hey, you see, it's very hard to exit lah. Based on the data, population dropping, there will be less demand for space already lah. And this news travels way faster than great news. Like if I were to tell you, actually, I think property will increase price further in Malaysia, KL. Confirm. But if I were to make such statements, right, there will be a lot of requirements for me to back that up. Everyone will ask for, hey, where's your data? Where's your facts, right? Are you selling anything else? Like, why are you telling everybody to invest now? I'll need to justify my answer, but if I just go and announce, we are doomed, property price is going to collapse. Like a lot of newspaper in Malaysia actually do that. They always ask this expert, the expert, right? Property is over glutting lah, oversupply lah, property is going to go down lah, whatever, right? And these people get famous for like 1 day, 2 days because everybody keeps sharing out of fear and they don't have to justify anything one. As they always say, misery loves company, right? They really like to all dwell together, then all suffer together lah. Because the truth is this, people who are successful in real estate investment, right? There's no need to share that they have a lot, man. Right? If you are making a lot of money, like you have 6 properties in your portfolio, do you go around hanging your SPA around your neck? Hey, you know I got 6. Hey, I got 6 property. Hey, come by. Because the real fact is, if you are in this line and you are very successful already, it's very hard to buy great properties. Very hard. So when people tell you the property, is it good or bad? Both are correct because it depends on which part of location you are looking at. If you're looking at Cyberjaya, high rise, especially, not very good in terms of ROI, but in terms of living, if I'm going to rent there, just so happen I'm posted there for work, right? The rent there, it's perfect value for money. You're living in a 1.6 million condo but paying 1,008, 2,005. Wow, crazy value for money. But will I invest in it? No. I'll invest somewhere else where it's going to be a place where the renter can cover the installment. But if I'm posted in KL or if I want to enjoy the Desa Park City life or the Bukit Jalil life, right, I'm actually renting in Bukit Jalil because the properties here are getting really expensive. So a rent of 3,000, 3,005, right, is a norm for a 3-bedroom here. But if you compare that to KLCC areas, oof, totally don't have to think about it. You'll just get a shoebox, also can laugh already. So based on my observation and my findings, so if I were to conclude this, right, I kind of seen both sides because I speak to enough numbers of people, both first-time homeowners, and I understand their concern, where they are coming from. I spoke to many disbelievers. It's like, why do I even want to try to convince them, right? Don't come. I also spoke to a lot of successful investors and they are seriously having concerns of how to pass this amount of wealth to the next generation. That's their question and problems right now. My conclusion to all this is, in Malaysia, property is still the way to go because we still have a very healthy portion of young working adults and the next generation. Also, our government is very heavily participating within this realm of property and real estate because we still rely a lot on construction to push the market. We are not within that financial services area yet, right? We still export a lot on petroleum. We still rely a lot on natural resources. So our construction are very, very strong. But that's one of the main way to inject money into the entire ecosystem. That's why they keep promoting more people buy a house, more demand for new location, more demand for new constructions. That's why you can see, right, within the last 5 years, right, how many new highways have been completed. We have Dash, we have SPE. I actually made an episode about this. And this year, all of them are starting to take place and completed already. WCE as well. Actually, that one long time completed already, but it's still within these few years only. And whenever there's a new highway, there'll be new locations and there'll be new alternative for people who try to seek for more value for money. So personally, I'm still heavily betting on properties. If you look into the Mr. Money TV episode of property versus stock, right, I'm like 120% on property. I got a little bit more capital built already, or just dump into properties without hesitation because I'm witnessing the growth and doing this for 18 years already. My portfolio has been doing really well. Even after a failure, it's fine. I'm still making gains on them. And in Malaysia right now, I see that it's a very sweet spot. So I've been obsessed with a lot of YouTube videos online about foreigners starting to move into Malaysia. They are considering Malaysia as a location to retire. And their retirement is like 45. I don't know how they retire, but so fast finish work already. Due to its value, due to the friendliness of Malaysians and our very high command of English and languages. That's why Chinese like us, Indonesian like us, Ang Mohs like us. And when Singapore is doing ultra well. People are actually suffering due to the high performance and strengthening of currency. Now, to retire lavishly in Malaysia, it's not a crazy idea anymore. Last time it used to be crazy, because what's the point, right? But what if the high-speed train from KL to Singapore is completed, right? It's not crazy to think about it that people will stay in KL and travel to Singapore for work, man. Especially after the remote work culture is being implemented, right? You need to go to office once or twice only in a week. Absolutely worth it. On top of that, the Johor property bubble just burst, and now I seriously think there's a lot of value within that region. I don't know which one, seriously, I'm still looking around, but a lot of developers have taken that hit. Okay, reality really sank in already. They know that they cannot charge higher price than Mont Kiara while being in JB anymore. And a lot of Singaporeans, right? A lot of Singaporeans are actually thinking about renting out their HDB and taking that return and take that rent in SGD, convert over, and to enjoy a very lavish lifestyle here in Malaysia. And to actually own something that they can never have in Singapore, which is a landed property. Yes, we have spoke a lot about investment, right? Crazy thought. Like the rest of the world needs to pay 25% upfront for any property down payment, right? That's the norm internationally. After speaking to Thailand, Indonesia, China, UK, wherever. Only in Malaysia, it's 10%. And if you buy new property, it's actually zero. Sometimes you get cashback. And we still expect the property to have a performance where rent can cover installment. Crazy. For those who know, we are actually enjoying all these kind of things. If you know where to find, if you know the right access to deals like that. Even as an individual, you get to find it if you find hard enough. Because there are not a lot of investors within the region compared to homeowners. So there's a lot of opportunities here in Malaysia as per se, but if you ask me about in the world, right, that's out of my coverage lah, seriously. But just looking at norms, it's a very common matter that real estate is beyond affordability in the city. Why? Because ultimately people will still need to work for money. So the location of job opportunities determines the location of demand for space. That's why CBDs are still the generator, are still the driving force for property. Unless everybody can work from home, imagine everybody can stay anywhere, right? Everybody work in Bali. But it's going to be a very small percentage of that only. Ultimately, a lot of people are still office bound, desk bound. Side note again, don't know how many side note for this episode, but it's also a tremendous value if you start working for yourself. Like for us who actually live in KL, right? Like I don't go to Jalan Bukit Bintang a lot, man. Like a month I go like once, and that's for shopping only for my kid. Very rare we go to Jalan Tun Razak. And if I were to seriously think about it, there's actually no need to live in a city. So I can actually live in Semenyih, to live in beautiful crafted homes for a bargain. Even if you need to have meetings Zoom once and I actually drive in once a month, that's about it. So self-employed people actually have a very interesting choice to make. Do you want to be very, very close to the city so you can rent in them, or you're in a stage of success and abundance already? I don't have to really be in the city already. That's why you can see mansions pretty far away from the city one sometimes, and those are really living their life lah. When you say go meet in KL, siao, don't waste my time. And I do hope once in my lifetime I will have that, right? But maybe in that time, right, I don't need a bungalow anymore. Again, like bungalows don't make sense anymore. It's just me, my wife and a kid. Maybe a helper, maybe a driver, if I'm that rich lah, right? Anyway, thank you so much for supporting the channel. Thank you so much for watching the video. I really appreciate it. This topic is a little bit more bigger picture topic, but generally that's what a lot of big players, a lot of experts looks at. They look at population statistics, work-life balance elements, lifestyle, demographic preferences, birth rate, population, demographic segregation, a lot of this kind of thing to determine whether this location can invest or not. But to me, we are the specimens, right? We know everything better than them. Because after speaking in Singapore throughout the weekend, this location is really gaining a lot of traction. A lot of people are talking about it. Good for business. For those who have owned, well done. For those who haven't, don't rush. Still make the informed decision, take calculated risk. And with that, see you guys on the next one. Ciao.